Can you believe it? It is week 12. Now, in real world, we're in week 10 for me. So I'm tracking with 2 weeks ahead. I'd like to get 3 weeks would be really great. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Actually, at the end, like we're actually itching towards Halloween, and then of course November Thanksgiving, and then December we're done. So the semester moves really quick at this point. Honestly, the whole thing has moved really quick, but it's really feeling that right now. So in this week, we're going to do something different, right? The code along is not going to be as long as normal. You're going to have a code along from me to fix the render, the table render. Thank you, Stephen, for pointing out to me my error. And it wasn't necessarily an error, but we're going to make our code more resilient. And then you're going to do the first code along, not from me, but from a YouTuber. I guess we did, some of you did for the form validation. But in this case, you're actually going to code along. And in this case, I'm actually using somebody I really enjoy, and his channel name is Color Code. I really enjoy his content. You're going to be watching the callback one here. 20 things JavaScript developers should know, but probably don't. And we've covered some of this. We've talked about the this variable. We've done arrow functions. I don't think I touched on higher order functions much. I did talk about closure just a bit. So if you want a deeper dive into these things, now is a great. This again, I think his content really well produced, very clear. But we're going to end up both having kind of what this week looks like going forward, because we're moving into kind of our last big topic of the course, and this is async code. And I think that's why I like this week, because it really lays out clearly synchronous code, which is pretty much what we've been writing, where code each line of JavaScript operates one after the other, although in event listeners that's not true. So we have been writing asynchronous code. I've been kind of giving you that heads up as we are there. But this week we actually dive into having a bigger, better understanding of it and using callbacks, which we've used callbacks, but in this case writing those callbacks. You'll see how to do that. And then in the code discussion, the challenge, we're not going to be doing the carbon footprint this week. We may come back to it, especially after we get to the weather API, and maybe put that back into we'll see. But you're going to be doing what I've termed async workout. It's basically creating a little workout app and doing some async task, some sync task, and some async task, right? So, and then I'll have that solution. I don't have it done as of yet. And then step 4 in the decision-making app process. This was a fun one for me to code. I just got finished coding it and doing the video for it a little while ago. And, at this point, I've been trying to somewhat track, and I think we've been pretty much there along with the development of our carbon footprint. Now I haven't been specifying which week to go back, right? But if you need help with that, you could ask me for sure, right? I could try to help you go track that back to see. But part of this is really saying, okay, now that we've gotten the carbon footprint to this point, as you see, we're on step 4 of recreating in our own decision-making app that concept. So in this week, you're connecting your functions into your form so that when the user submits it, they get the output. But you don't have to have it completely done, and the idea of tabular data that we did when we created that table with the edit and the delete, right? You don't have to have that done this week, but you'll have to output somehow to the page once the user does the form. And we did this one of the weeks. We actually ended up writing a function to just display the object out. So we've definitely done this. It's maybe not in the exact order, but then underneath that, I have you actually hard code what your ultimately going to do. And then next week we'll start and maybe finish the idea or the code for rendering, right? The equivalent of our render table. And I didn't this week, although I noticed a couple of you did already start creating modules. I definitely next week am going to do that because even though my code's not that long, I still, the sooner you start creating modules, I think the better. So I can imagine that this week, next week, week 5, we'll do the table rendering or some kind of rendering to where you get the buttons. That's why I want you to think about it this week as far as hard coding it. And then that'd be 5, and then 6 would be local storage, right? Or actually, no, 6 would be coding up the edit and the delete. So we'll have the table render with the buttons not activated. And next week, probably do, or the week after that, would do coding up the edit and the delete. And then local storage somewhere in there. And so that's where we'll end up with the decision part of this. And hopefully, by this time, I will have already been starting to communicate with you all through, when you're going to, again, I talked about the code review and I don't need to go over that again, but, we're still at this point, I'm sure, just starting to get into getting that first round of students through. So I look forward to it. I really do. There's been a good handful of you that have been coming to see me on a regular basis, and I've enjoyed that interaction. I hope that's been of benefit to you as well. So I'm going to publish here. I'll publish all of these items so that you will now be able to see week 12. All right. Have a good one, and I will chat with you later.